All right, hello everyone. Welcome back to another video. This was a video that was requested by one of you as to how I prep my cards for grading. So I've got 4 cards that we are going to be looking at here today. 3 chromium, 1 paper. We're going to set those right here for now. We'll go over what I use. So you can see I've got on just like a regular cotton glove on my non-dominant hand. And that's just so that when I am controlling cards, touching them, getting them into the penny sleeves, I am not getting any additional fingerprints onto the card that I would have wiped off. I've got a little bit of painter's tape rolled up so I can dab the edges of the cards with it if there's a little bit of dust or, if there's not a clean cut on the edge and I want to pick off a little piece just to clean up the edge. And then I've got a paper towel here that is wet for the surface of the chrome cards. This is just water. PSA has said in videos, or at least representatives of PSA have said it is fine to use water. They say you cannot use, other cleaners or such. So I just stick to that guidelines. I don't want to risk my cards being considered altered or something. And then I've also got a microfiber right here. So those are what I use on the cards. Obviously, not on the cards is going to be just a sheet of printer paper right here. So any type of paper, really. It could be notebook paper. That's just so that I know I've got a surface that doesn't have stuff on it like the desk may have. Typically I get a new one, but I will reuse these for a few times prepping cards. Then you're gonna have your penny sleeves, and then some version of a semi-rigid, whether you use Card Saver ones, whether you find your own stuff off of Temu like I do now, because you can find the same stuff for cheaper, or even sometimes eBay has good orders. So yeah, that is all I use to prep. So let's get into the first card. We'll do the Jose Ramirez first because I grabbed it first. So first thing I do, I pull it out. I do have a ring light over here to my left that I actually did just break. So I'm kind of operating a little handicapped right now. But, you can see that it's darker over here, it's lighter over here. So I actually will have to bring the card off camera for myself to inspect briefly. But what I want to do is get it into the light so you can actually see the ring there. That's the ring light I'm using. And you're going to want to move it around in different directions to catch the surface with the light and see where your flaws are. So I'm looking at it right now and I see a couple things. So first thing I see is right here. Is that considered a scratch? I don't know. Let's see if that comes out with a little bit of water. We'll wipe it real quick. Again, I'm not going to push into the card because I don't want to risk, making indentations on it that flaw the surface even further than it already was. If it doesn't come out with just a little bit of light rubbing and some water, then it's not going to come out at all. And you can actually see the mark itself, there's probably a little something on the surface, has technically gone away. Actually, what it's done is it's now smeared up a little bit more. So I know that I can get it out. And now I'll just take, the water to it one more time and wipe it down. And hopefully it's gone this time. If not, I'll just keep repeating until it goes away. And if you spend a few minutes on it and you don't think you're making any progress, well, then you're not going to get it out of the card. So you can see right there why I've got, this glove on the one hand. I like the cotton because if I wear, a latex glove or something like that, I feel like it's going to make my hands feel clammy and wet, and I don't want that. So you can actually see that scratch, gunk, whatever you want to call it, is now not on the border. So that is good. I do have a couple other locations on the card. Typically, if I see multiple locations, I just want to show you that first one as an example. What I do is I'll just go ahead and wipe down the whole surface of the card with water. I want to make sure that I'm not overdoing it to the point where, I'm getting it into the edges of the card, because the edges of the card on a chromium card are not really protected from water. They could still get damaged, but the front and the back are both fine. And usually the back doesn't really need anything because the chromium shine, or the coating that they use, is really more apparent on the front with that finish. So we've wiped it down once. Sometimes after you wipe it down, there will be some water marks on the card, because if you put too much water on, once it starts drying, you're just kind of smearing that water a little. So in that case, you just have to put a little bit more water on the card, wipe it back off. But I had seen a mark down at the bottom. I saw what looked like a couple print lines potentially running through the front that kind of disappeared. The front of this card is actually, looking pretty good. Not completely perfect, but good enough for me to consider it for grading. I don't really think there's anything else I can do to the surface. Maybe I'll check out this right there. You can kind of see how that looks weird. I don't know if that's just because the finish on the card, how that looked, or if it's because there was a slight smear there, but we'll go ahead and wipe that down as well. We'll check it out. Looks like it's still there. Looks to me like that's part of the chromium design. Not gonna mess with that anymore. And the rest of the front of the card, that looks about all I can do to it. So now I'll go to the back, move it through the light. On the back, what I'm looking for mainly is dimples. If there's little bits of print lines running through, I'm not messing with it. They're usually fine with a little bit of a print line or roller mark through the back. Corners look good. Edges on this card actually look really good. The newer chrome cards and a lot of paper cards is where you'll see a lot of, the little edge or corner flakes sticking out that I'll pick off with that tape, but I actually don't think I'm gonna need any of that. This card for me, maybe it's a little off center, left, right, top, bottom, but for me, this is actually good enough to send off for grading. You can be stricter if you want. I know from sending a lot of cards in recently that even if this gets a PSA 9, they're actually offering pretty strong on Chrome Jose Ramirez rookies. So even if I get a 9, I know I can break even. So one of the things I pay attention to when sliding it in, one, you don't want to be bumping your hand or fingers into the corners, but two, when I'm sliding it up, like right here on his hand, I feel a little bit of a dot. And, if I just kind of feel it real quick, I don't feel it with my bare hand, so I'm gonna guess that it's something in the sleeve or on the sleeve. We'll wipe everything down. It feels good now. So just kind of pay attention to the feelings you get in your fingers. I know that sounds weird, but if you feel something weird, like a little bump or something, there could just be a little speck of something on the card or on the sleeve that could potentially scratch it up or needs to be removed. So card is now in the penny sleeve. You can see that when I slid it in, I was holding it with the glove so I'm not getting the fingerprints, and I am opening. The reason I don't wear a glove on this hand is so I can get the friction I need on this penny sleeve to open it, get the sleeve in, and I've got a fresh sleeve on it. This sleeve that I took the card out of originally, I don't want to use. That is, in my opinion, a dirty penny sleeve, right? I want to be using one that is fresh out of the package. And then this is actually a new package of semi-rigids. Doesn't need to be anything fancy. If you want to, you can stick 2 fingers down, pull it out to make it looser so your card slides in easier. With the chrome card, I'm not concerned with that because they go in pretty easily. Paper cards, especially some of these newer paper cards that are really flexible, I'd be more concerned about. But putting it in, kind of like a top loader, I'm just squeezing the edges to open it up. And then, yeah, you just slide the card down on in, and she'll be good to go. So there's that Jose Ramirez rookie card. Not guaranteeing a PSA 10, but it's got a shot, and it's a profitable card for me to grade based off of experience. So we'll go ahead. I set them off to the side, and then when I'm making my grading orders, I go through the pile. I set off to the side of cards I want to grade, and then I determine, what cards I want to include in my order to reach the quantities I need. Next one we'll do is this Ohtani. Now this is a very tough card to grade, and that's going to be because of the black back. This back looks pretty good, so we'll go ahead and actually start with the painter's tape on this one. There is a little white fuzz sticking out there. I don't know if you can even see that, but I am picking it, got it off. You can see some white down here, not perfect. This is a card too where I know I don't need to be perfect on. If I get a PSA 9 on 2 and a PSA 10 on 1, if I send 3 cards, that's what the gem rate would suggest. I'm still gonna make money. So, I don't necessarily need a perfect back. You can see some print lines running down on the left side here. I am okay with that. Corners look mostly good. We'll go ahead and give this edge a wipe because it looked like there was a little bit of residue on it. Looks like it's still there. On the back of the card, if it's at the edge, I am okay with taking my microfiber and taking the tip of my finger and seeing if that's something that can just pick off. I am not pushing down in the card because it'll leave a mark, but I'm using just the tip of my finger to see if I can get it. Still didn't. I'm okay with that as long as the front of the card ends up being fine. So you can see on the front here, first thing, that's a print line right there. That is definitely not gunk or anything. That's a print line running through the left of the border, really into the center of the card and all the way across. So I'm actually not very optimistic about this card being able to be prepped to send off for grading in a good manner. This might be a reject, but I'm still gonna do is wipe down the whole surface of the card. You know, if a print line is in the physical card, you're not gonna get it out. If it's just, you know, the printer leaving a mark across the top of it, you can get it out. So we'll go ahead and see. This one to me looks like it's gonna be one that is not going to be good to grade. But after the wipe down, we'll take a look. And worst case scenario too, right? If this isn't gradable, I'm gonna sell this on my eBay store raw and disclose it as excellent condition. And in the pictures, you know, try to show that there's a print line that you can still see there. So yeah, not gonna be able to get that print line out. That one is ingrained into the card. But at least now my surface looks cleaner and will be a more presentable picture. Like that looks like a pretty nice looking refractor minus the print line there that you can see. So rejects I'm fine putting back into the quote unquote dirty sleeve, unless it was a nasty sleeve it got shipped in. You know, this sleeve looks fine, doesn't look dirty. It's just not a brand new sleeve, so I'm not going to want to send cards off for grading in that. So the Ohtani is a reject. We'll go into a paper card now. So paper card, the first thing you want to know is no water. Seems obvious, but if you're doing a bunch of chrome cards and you're just in a routine, don't want to accidentally put water on it. You'll definitely ruin the card. You know, think about putting water on this paper or any other type of paper, whether it's cardboard, corrugated paper, anything like that. You're going to warp it and the card's going to be ruined. You could, you know, potentially, stain the card when it dries too. You know how you see some of those older vintage or junk wax cards that have the brown stains on them from getting wet. You don't want that. So we'll just go ahead and wipe down the surface. You know, don't see anything major. On this card, I'm really looking for dimples. Looks like there is one by his helmet here. See if I can't get that in the light. Yep, you can see it there. It's a very minor one. If that's the only one I see, I'm not going to be concerned. The other thing I'm noticing on this card is that this bottom right corner does not look exactly perfect, and you can see that there is a little bit of edge, residue, or whatever you want to call it there on the left side. I'm going to go ahead and pick that off. It actually looks quite a bit better. These cards aren't great examples. There's some cards where when I do that, I can see, you know, the little white flakes on this tape very well. And I'll actually have to throw it out and get a new tape out because it becomes not sticky anymore. A little bit there on the top left that I want to get to. Yep, got that. So front of the card looks good enough for me. This is a card too I'm okay with getting a 9 on, just based off of past experience. This one I actually would predict to get a 9, but you know, it's still got a shot at a 10 with this card having a solid gem rate. So this one looks good enough to me. Not really seeing any surface scratchers, not seeing any corner wear that shows obviously. This one would most likely get a 9, has a shot at a 10. There is that brown dot down there. Just tried to wipe my little glove over it, didn't come off, that's okay. You know, I'm not concerned about that. Now, if you were saying I only want to send off cards that, you know, I feel very confident we'll get a PSA 10, I wouldn't send this card. But I can buy this card $10 raw. You know, if grading is able to drop back down to $25, you know, this would be a card I'd send at $25 per card for a grading level. I know that even in a PSA 9, the offer from PSA will still be somewhere in the 30s. And for a 10, it's going to be about $110 right now. So a lot of money to be made there. I'm okay with sending that card. But I know it's not exactly perfect. So we'll do our last card now, this Lando Norris. I know this was one of the cards that was requested, I believe. I could be wrong. But we got the Lando Norris helmet card. Yeah, let's get into it. So these helmet cards tend to have what look to be like print lines, but you can't really see it very well on camera. But there's just like a vertical movement to the card. Like that's how it was printed. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That's how the card was printed. A lot of these helmet cards have 50% gem rates or so they're toss-ups. So first thing I'm going to do is I see a little bit of stuff on the surface. If I see something on the surface that really looks like if I put water on it and move it around is just going to smear everywhere, I like to wipe it with a microfiber first to try and pick it up instead of smear it around. I know I didn't do that on the Jose Ramirez card, the first one, the video, but I knew that mark on there wasn't like gunk. Like, it didn't look to be colored. It looked almost more like a scratch. So yeah, I actually did get a little bit of stuff out on that top left. Then we can see there's still a little bit of stuff showing here on this top left. And then this here might be part of the design right below his middle finger on his right hand. And then we've also got this little surface issue right there. You can barely see that too, but all of those combined would be enough to drop this grade down. We'll check out the back real quick. Not really concerned with anything on the back. Wipe off any little dust that there might be. That corner isn't perfect, but it'll do as long as I can get this front surface taken care of. So this one too, since I've got stuff in multiple areas, I'm just going to do the whole front nice and gentle with water. You are allowed to do this. And if I do feel like I need to push down an area to get something, I'm not going to want to use the tip of my finger to push down. I'm going to want to use, like, usually I use my thumb, right? Because you're going to be able to push down the most, and you're just going to want to like really get into it with your thumb. If that doesn't take care of it, there isn't much that I personally think I can do. I know there's other methods and people spend days restoring cards or prepping them. The cards I'm buying, the value on them, it's not worth that. Even if it's a $75 card, if I'm putting in multiple hours of work, well, you know, I could have found 10 other cards that would have made me even more money that I could have done something on in that time. So let's go ahead and check out the Lando card. Missed this initially when I was going over it. There is, yeah, you can see that in the ring light really good there. Under the 199 numbering, there's that surface problem. Need to take care of that. That's part of the card. A little bit of scratching going through there, but that's just part of the vertical printing process. My top left is looking very good right now, so the only thing I need to take care of is under that number 199. And then this card, I actually do feel pretty confident about getting a gem if I can take care of this. Obviously, that's not a guarantee, but it certainly doesn't hurt to be confident. If I'm confident in sending off 20 cards for grading, I know not all 20 are going to get the gem, but maybe 14 of them will, and I'll have a 70% gem rate. So still not coming off. So this might be one that we're just kind of out of luck, or it could be one that maybe takes a little bit more care. So let's wipe it one more time. This time I am going to get on the tip, but I'm not going to push down. I'm just going to use it to create more of a point. As long as I'm not pushing down and indenting into the card, I will be okay. So you can either push down with, you know, a big surface area, or you can get on a fine tip surface but not push down. And what you're really trying to do is just kind of like scrape but not get into the card scraping. You're trying to scrape whatever is on top of the card off. And yeah, we'll give it a wipe. You can see I hit my paper, not ideal. Probably just got a fingerprint on the card there. We'll wipe. It is not appearing to come off. So this is one that I'm actually just going to go ahead and place into a semi-rigid right now. This card should not get a PSA 10, right? If I do end up sending this card off for grading, this card should get probably realistically a PSA 8. I am going to consider it for grading still. I think that this will just be one I hold on to for a little bit longer, because I think that this helmet collection card long term is going to be good. And I think that especially the numbered cards, you know, you see how much the base ones do. I do think that the number ones long term actually are going to have some pretty significant value. Could be wrong. It's just a hypothesis, but I am going to not let it get any more damage than it already is. We're going to set it off. That is not one that I would grade if I was sending an order right now, but it is one that I will hold if that market does continue to do well. Maybe a PSA 8 or 9 on it. It's good just to have that authentication. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. We had 2 of the 4 cards were gradable. Obviously the Norris, like I just explained, I did put into the One Touch, but it's not going to be going off to PSA anytime soon unless my mind changes and I have solid reasoning for it. The 2 Jose Ramirez's were good. And then the Shohei Ohtani had that print line going through it that we weren't able to do anything to. So hopefully being able to see how I prep my cards was worth it. And you guys enjoyed it. If you did, like and subscribe. Comment other video ideas down below, as well as what you think about this. eBay store and ComC store are linked in the description if you want to buy anything I have for sale. And as always, thank you guys for watching 2K for Life. Peace.